We are live from the HousingWire news desk at MBA Annual. I'm thrilled to welcome Erik Anderson and Rock Primas of Motor to this edition of HousingWire Instant Impact. And we'll jump right into it. Erik, what is Motor and what excites you about the business?
Great question. Yeah, appreciate that. There's a lot to be excited about right now, not just with Motor, but of course with the industry. It's great to be here at the MBA Annual. I think, what is Motor? The first thing I would say is the customers that we work with, I really feel like they understand the problems they're trying to solve, and they sometimes just need help solving those problems. And so that's something that we do. We come alongside our customers and help them solve their problems, and we do that in three ways. We do that with our tech practice. We have hundreds of engineers of all different disciplines that can help build point solutions or just work alongside their engineering teams to help them accomplish what they need to do, digitize their operations. The second thing we do is we do a whole bunch of back office work, re-engineering processes, providing the people, fragmenting processes, bringing subject matter expertise. And then the third thing that we do is we do a lot of customer experience work, customer communication, voice work, written communication, all of those things that touch the customer in some way. So these are kind of the three broad practices that we use to help our customers, operationalize the solutions that they've come up with for the various problems that they're trying to solve.
That's great. And Rock, you have a couple decades in mortgage at some pretty big lenders before joining Motor. Why did you decide to join more of a startup?
Great question. So a couple of things. One, my time at PHH and Freedom combined over 20 years in the industry, to your point. And most of my experience was on the origination side. So I had a chance to go through multiple cycles, observe many of the challenges, but also the opportunities. And, one of the things that I thought about as far as my career and my next step in my career was, how can I help my former peers and colleagues in the industry, specifically on the origination side, but also servicing, but on the origination side, deal with the volatility of the industry. And, there were scenarios where we had to increase interest rates just to throttle volume because we didn't have the back office support to handle the influx of volume that may have come in unexpectedly. And, obviously that's lost revenue, that impacts the client experience. So I said, in this next chapter of my career, I want to work for an organization that allows me to come back and now provide solutions to a lot of those challenges that we face. So I met Erik. I was actually a customer of Erik's when I was at Freedom. And so when this opportunity opened up at Motor, he reached out and I said, you know what, I'm all in.
That's amazing. Yeah. And let's talk a little bit more about that cyclicality. I'm relatively new to housing and mortgage. I joined HousingWire about 6 years ago. And one of the things I've been surprised about is this boom and bust when it comes to hiring and firing. And it seems like it's pretty painful for the companies and obviously for the people who are getting cut.
Yep.
Right?
That's right. Absolutely.
So how does your company help lenders deal with that issue and do a better job of scaling up without having to hire and fire?
Yes, absolutely.
Question for you.
Yeah, appreciate it. So, and I think we just saw this a couple months ago, right?
Yeah.
So, we've been through 2 years of really challenging interest rates and, starting, call it 3 months ago in anticipation of the Federal Reserve moving and some of the economic data out there, interest rates moved down pretty materially. And you were seeing in certain loan products, a 5 note rate, right? 5.75, 5.875. And so all of a sudden people needed capacity, right? They were writing apps, they needed capacity. And then, interestingly enough, we're in this, I think, new world where we're going to see a lot more of this. Instead of it kind of predictably continuing to move down, it snapped all the way back. We're back to where we were at the beginning of 2024. Not only do they not need capacity, they probably now hired a bunch of capacity that they don't need, thinking that the market was going to continue to move. And so we're in this world where you've got, high debt burdens, you've got full employment, and so we're going to continue to see high interest rates and people struggling with taking advantage of these micro opportunities, but no big, significant 5%, 4%, 3%, 2% refinance your whole way down kind of market, right? And so what we do is, and this is I think what we're better at than anything else we do, is we really help them think about how to solve the entire problem. And it's not just hiring and firing. That's the worst case outcome, right? And sometimes you have to do some of that, but we start with, hey, let's understand from an origination standpoint at different scenarios what you're trying to do. Do you want to write 1,000 apps a month based on a particular note rate? Do you want to write 10,000 apps? Do you want to write 100 apps, right? What do you want to do? let's get really good at the modeling. We're going to help you with that, right? Model these different scenarios and plan. Let's understand the tech stack. And we're not going to propose swapping out LOSs and stuff like this. It's a 5-year project, right? No, let's talk about simple steps to better orchestrate the workflow, right? Things as simple as Excel, but then you can get into actual workflow orchestration and all of that stuff. So now we've got the fundamentals in place. Now let's get into your staffing models. Let's help you with your staffing models. Let's fragment that process more so you don't have a processor, underwriter, and closer, right? You've got 15 different roles across that process, and you've got really strong orchestration across the top. So stuff isn't being lost in the handoffs or falling through the cracks. And then let's deploy the right skilled person in the right location, right, to each of these different component processes that we've introduced. And so we help with all of that. And that's a journey, by the way. Everything I said, that's not 2 months, that's 2 years to go on that journey. But we can help them go on that journey, and the end state of that journey is really flexible, responsive operations that allow them to take advantage of these situations that, like we had back in August and September, and knock it over their skis like we're seeing right now.
Right. Rock, let's build on that a little bit. Why is right now, where we're kind of sensing some cautious optimism, but there's no real booms in the future, right? Why is now the right time for a prospect to consider working with Motor on outsourcing?
Yeah, great question. So, Erik just kind of talked through the recent scenarios where we had the drop in interest rates and then the sharp increase in a very short period of time.
Yep.
And ultimately, 2025 is upon us. And for many of our clients and prospective clients, they're finalizing their 2025 plans.
Yep.
And a big part of that is capacity and how they're going to handle that scalability up and down with the market. And so now's the perfect time to work with us for the primary reason of letting us help you with your scalability plan. Based on different interest rate scenarios, based on different volume goals and expectations. But ultimately, we can come in. We're very easy to work with. Erik is our CEO, obviously, and in many cases, when we have scenarios where our client may be looking for something outside of the box, it's a very quick decision. We move very fast, hence the name Motor. And ultimately allow us to be a part of that capacity planning and scalability plan for next year, not just next year, but beyond.
Let's stick with you for a moment here. Walk me through like a case study that illustrates your ability to help with some of the problems we've been talking about in this conversation.
Yes. So there's quite a few, but for this one, a lot of our conversation up until now has been specific to origination. So I'm going to use a servicing case study.
Okay.
So we have a very large servicer as a client, and they were dealing with high attrition here in the U.S. Their servicing portfolio is growing, so they needed to hire. And they wanted to have a strategy that involved having capacity offshore, but they had never done it before. So they partnered with Motor, and what we did in a very short period of time is we stood up a facility in the Philippines where we provide all of our voice-related work. And in doing so, their primary objective was, we need to add capacity, we need to make sure attrition stays low, we need to make sure our CSAT continues to be strong or improves, and our quality scores do not suffer at all as a result of this change. And so in less than 90 days, we built this facility in the Philippines. We flew our trainers out to train our employees that we hired in the Philippines. And over a 12-month rolling period, measuring the core KPIs, we actually outperformed our servicers' onshore staff. Quality scores increased by about 7 percentage points. Customer SAT increased by 9 percentage points. And at the end of the day, they now had a model that allowed for another overflow for capacity, different time zone, the ability to handle more calls, and that flexibility and elasticity that they were looking for. And attrition, by the way, was much, much lower than onshore in the U.S.
Yeah, amazing case study.
Yeah.
So Erik, we'll end with you. I love talking about product roadmaps because I think it gives people a sense of what your mission is and what you're trying to accomplish with your clients. How are you thinking about 2025 in terms of product capabilities and what you're offering to your client base and your prospects?
Absolutely, great question. I think there's a few things. Number one, before we get into products, I'll just say, I think 2025 has a lot of unknowns about it, right? We've got an election that is hard to believe, a couple weeks away.
Yeah.
That's going to send us in a variety of directions. Impossible to predict but it's going to have an impact on mortgage, right? We've also got this, kind of high interest rate scenario. We've got very constrained housing capacity, especially in places where people want to live, good school districts, good quality of life. And so you've got all of these things, different dynamics coming into play for 2025. And what we're saying is it's impossible to know where it's going to go, but if you're planning and you're prepared, right, then we're going to be able to do whatever we need to do in those scenarios, and we're able to help you with that. And so to that point, we've got a few things. One, we're rolling out we call it a new geography, but basically a new area of the world where we're going to be able to deliver our services from. So we're going to be in Latin America in 2025, in addition to our locations in the US and our locations in India and the Philippines. And then the second thing that we're rolling out is just more depth around technology, really helping people with practical, real world, not super expensive, not very invasive technology deployments using our developers, our project managers, our expertise. And so those are really the two focuses we have, is continuing to help people be, planning and preparing, and then adding this fourth geography in Latin America and getting better and better about the technology capabilities we have that can help them implement solutions that they've, discovered that they need.
Amazing. Guys, this is a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.